What do you think is scarier? The idea that we are alone in the universe, or the idea that we aren't? Why? Tell me op. Have you read the 3-Body Problem series? I think about the ruins of ancient civilizations on other planets, and how absolutely fascinating it would be to explore them. Neither is scary, because if we are alone, then we have nothing to worry about. If we are not, then the sheer vastness of space is a pretty good indicator that we are not likely to ever make contact with another intelligent species. I find it more depressing knowing that there are so many galaxies and planets out there, that there must be billions of strange and exotic places that we'll never see or explore. We are pretty much confined to our own solar system, unless we develop a technology to skip across time and space, which is scary to imagine. That we are alone. Given how massive the universe is in space and time, the idea that Earth is the only place where any life form exists is unsettling. Everyone seems to be assuming that other life means humanoid or intelligent. To me it just means any life form. Carbon-based or made of element unknown to our galaxy. There has to be something else. Well, the idea that we'll never know. There are lots of paradoxes and problems regarding aliens. If they are there at all, have they developed technology advanced enough to create electromagnetic signals? And if yes, why we haven't seen any signs throughout the visible universe? Our civilization can be easily spotted for everyone in a California 110 Li radius with radio telescope, and we can't spot anything in billions of light years around. On the other hand, we have animals on Earth, dated hundreds of millions of years, and they haven't evolved into space dwellers. Honestly, it doesn't matter if we are or not alone. We'll never reach to the stars unless we find out how to break laws of physics. The idea that we are alone. It gives me a feeling of loneliness and that there is not as much out there to look for. Existence would not be as interesting. The idea that we aren't. That could be one of the worst ideas possible. Have you ever heard about the Great Filter Theory? Or maybe a super civilization that monitors other planets with lives and destroy them once they become too much of a threat to them. The idea we aren't. Basically, any time two entities come into contact, there is some kind of power struggle, and the loser is either subjugated or eliminated. The only chance for peace is a coincidental situation where both parties are at the same power, roughly speaking, to where the struggle is known to be too damaging to all parties such that it should be avoided. That we are alone. It would give credence to the simulation theory. Given the number of stars being circled by planets that we can see from Earth, let alone the rest of the universe, the odds are laughably small that on one of those distant planets the same building blocks didn't exist. This planet is not unique. Mathematically there should be life. I think it would be far more frightening that we are alone. I have recurring dreams, nightmares, of an alien invasion. It usually follows some kind of theme where there are instantaneous global sightings and amped up military engagements. Reconnaissance to determine the potential threat. I live close to a large airbase BTW. I'll see it pop up on the TV, and whenever my family and I go outside we will spot a group of them. It's usually just a blip, like they are turning their cloaking devices on and off. But it's one of the most terrifying feelings I've ever experienced. Sheer terror and panic grip us, and we all confirm what we saw. Nothing I've experienced in real life has filled me with that type of dread. For some reason I'm always convinced there is nowhere to hide. And not knowing what is the exact threat gives me a feeling of futility, helplessness. There is nothing we can do to stop them from having their way with us. Sometimes it feels like they just start bombing the whole planet at once or something. Earthquakes and intense weather suddenly appear, and the horizon just shuts down with either black or grey walls like lights being turned off in a long hallway, till the darkness closes in on me. At the end it always feels like there was something we could have done to prevent it from happening, but we procrastinated, didn't care, and that's why the aliens came. A few times the sky literally tore open, and what felt like angels, demons, interdimensional beings just came spewing through. Like projectile vomit through a wet paper bag. Not much I can remember following those instances. Just sheer terror. Credit to N. By Stephen King. I'm sure reading King's and Lovecraft's works plus watching Hollywood have influenced these dreams. Nightmares. But I still can't help but feel like being alone in the universe is worse. It seems like the aliens come because we ducked up the planet and they use it as an intergalactic sort of pit stop. They got tired of letting us destroy nature or something. It's not like they were evil, it was like they had some sort of grand scheme way beyond what some hairless chimps could comprehend. That we aren't. If we are alone then we are the best and worst of the universe. I don't want to run into a species worse than us. I think the scariest thing is that, if an asteroid hit Earth right now and destroyed everything, nothing that we know of will recognize any record of anything that ever happened on Earth. There will be nothing to account for the loss of Earth. So if there's nothing out there to do that, then it's like Earth never existed at all. Scary. Edit. Golden record. Tree falls in woods. Entropy got it. That we are alone. The thought that Shrek exists somewhere and would kindly accept us in his swamp in the time of a major catastrophe gives me a good night's sleep. Alone. It's theoretically impossible for us to be alone. But if we're the first, last thinking life forms in the universe, that's a depressing thought. 'Cause that means someday, the last human being will die out, and that will be the end of all progress. Sure, life will go on. But would another species step up and do better than us? Can they? Will they? I guess the not knowing is the worst part of it. The idea that it matters. The idea that regardless of either possibility, there is no saving us from ourselves. That we are alone. For sure. Now, not saying that is scary, but it's scarier than knowing there are aliens, because if there's one then suddenly the odds of more goes up, and given the scale, the possibilities are endless. We could come across aliens that have cures for all diseases and answers to all our questions about the universe, all given to us in the space of a couple days, saving us centuries of scientific research and advancement. This is equally as likely as the predatory alien species that tries to eat us, but generally, when a civilization advances, certainly to the level of space travel, the civilization become more and more peaceful. I know the limits and destructive capabilities of humans. I don't want to have to guess at a species we don't know, and may not be able to communicate with. Mathematically we shouldn't be alone. There are too many stars in too many galaxies across a seemingly infinite universe that has already existed for billions of years. So, if we are alone there has to be a reason for it. And that reason must be terrifying. A wave that wipes out a city is terrifying. A fire that kills everything in a forest is terrifying. We don't have a word to describe the unfathomable horror of confronting the reason why life doesn't exist in the universe. Alone. I hope there is a God or something greater than us. I'm not religious, but it's a comfort to hope for. I don't think either of those outcomes is scary. Reality is what it is. Getting upset over it isn't going to change anything. That's no more scary than the fact that I can't flap my arms and fly to the moon. The idea that we are alone, because that would mean no other hospitable planets exist in the universe, and when the Earth finally blows up, or whatever, then that is the end of life in the universe. That we are alone. If we are alone then everything we do becomes more meaningful. If we go extinct that would mean the end of sapient technologically advanced species. If the Earth becomes uninhabitable then all hope for life in the entire universe is lost. If we are alone then this planet becomes a billion times more precious and the way we've been treating it becomes instantly unacceptable. The pollution we and our ancestors caused would be treasonous crimes. The stakes have become infinitely higher, because we are the only chance for life in the galaxy. And if we are alone then our best is the best that anyone is ever going to do. And if I take a look around I can't help but feel disappointed and ashamed of our accomplishments so far. We are progressing to the point where the Earth won't satisfy our continued lust for growth, and we are risking all life in the universe to achieve it. If we are alone. I think the scarier one is that we aren't. Mostly from the scientific viewpoint I once learned about. There was this natural filter or something which was a nearly impossible obstacle to overcome for life. Now, the goal of all life is to grow and evolve, so the natural goal of humanity is to spread in the whole universe. That's where this filter comes in. There were 4 main stages that can be the filter in theory. Developing life, developing conscience, developing intelligence, and factor X. What that means is, the less life we find in space, the more likely it is we've already overcome the biggest obstacle and we can continue to grow. If we find, let's say, many other civilizations, that will mean the obstacle is ahead of us. The unknown factor X theory is that it's probably us destroying ourselves eventually. So, personally, I hope we can continue with humanity's goal, and make our history actually mean something to the universe by the time it ends. Alone because some astronomical event must have destroyed that civilization. It is only some time until it eventually happens to us. Just like it says in the Fermi paradox, both are equally as terrifying. If we are alone, then it means that life was a mistake and we are just a small error in the cosmos. But if they are real, then depending on their level of complexity we can't know if the great filter is ahead of us or behind us. Or if it's behind us, then we don't have much, if anything at all, to worry about. But if it's ahead, there may be an extinction event coming. The idea of being alone. The idea that we are alone is way scarier. The idea that we could go extinct in a couple hundred years, and be the end of intelligent life in the universe is depressing. I'm comforted by the idea that there's more out there than just us. Neil deGrasse Tyson said that his worst fear is that aliens already visited Earth and decided not to make contact because there is no intelligent life here. I mean, I would rather be invaded than insulted. As the late great Arthur C. Clarke says, both are terrifying. I think fear is a path to the dark side. The idea that we are alone. If we are alone, then we are like the lone survivor on a deserted island, with nothing and no one. Forgotten. Staring into the distance hoping for rescue that will never appear.